Cool. All right. Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of In the Pocket Podcast. I am your host, SOU to the P, joined as always by my good brother Mike, looking fresh, straight out the barber chair.
Straight
What's
out.
going on, big dog?
I'm doing great, man. Hey, we're a week away from football, baby. College football this week. A week away from the NFL. I'm hyped, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hyped, but I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to ride the roller coaster that is the NFL season, where, my mood on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is often dependent upon what happens on Sundays. So I, I, I should say, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if my wife is ready for that. I don't know if my whole household is ready for that.
They've had the whole summer to get ready. Now it's time to be ready.
I know it's the same time every year. I don't know why they're so shocked every single season. Like, what do you mean we can't go to the park on Sundays? I'm like, you know what's happening on
You
Sundays.
know what time it is.
You know what time it is. Dude, something I just wanted to start off with is one of the longest running soap operas in this off season seems to have reached some sort of a conclusion. And like many shows, the season finale didn't live up to the hype of the show, but it ended anyway. Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals get the deal done. How are you feeling about the way that went down?
Yeah, no, I thought it was dumb. I really feel like the Bengals won in this situation because they wanted a shorter deal. Trey Hendrickson was trying to get paid for a couple of years. They said that they take the soup approach in Madden where they don't pay players over 30, but what they did is they give him 1 year, $30 million. It's like 27, and that's guaranteed, I believe. And then he gets to be an unrestricted free agent. They're not going to franchise tag him, et cetera. After that, that's part of that contract. So I think that'll give him a good opportunity to be in the open market next year and get compensated like a top 5 pass rusher, like he absolutely is. In my mind, he's a top 3 pass rusher, but you can absolutely you can't really argue top 5. Like he's unarguably in the top 5, so they're paying him $30 million. Glad they got it done. I think if they would have got this done earlier, it would have allowed them to make some other moves, or if they actually paid this man last year, that would have given them some more money to add it to their defense this year. I don't think that's going to be a difference between them making the playoffs or not, but I do think it'll be the difference between them being able to win some games and not, right? Like he's going to be somebody that can get after the passer. They're going to be able to get up if Al Golden, who's a brilliant defensive mind, can get that defense playing together. I think that'll be a good situation for him.
Yeah, for sure, man. Again, I'm with you. I would have liked to see multiple years added on to this, especially because Trey has come into Cincinnati and he's done everything that they asked him to do and more, and he's more than outplayed his contract. And I'm happy that he got his money, right? Like, don't get me wrong. If somebody said, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and give you $30 million for a single year of work," I would be happy. But part of the thing that he was hoping from the Cincinnati Bengals was long-term stability for him and his family. He had talked about loving being in Cincinnati, wanting to help, bring a championship to that city, and wanting to play, for the Stripes for years to come and probably finish out his career there, seeing as that's really where he made his mark. So bittersweet, right? Like, it's kind of hard to be sad when you're making $30 million. At least it would be for me. And I imagine Trey Hendrickson and his family feel the same way. It's kind of hard to be all the way sad about everything that's happening, considering that you get to stay where you want. You don't have to worry about relocating your family for the year. And at least for another 365 days what your life is going to look like.
Right.
In other contract dispute news, like, we did have another scenario where player says, "Hey, I want out. Get me out of here. I'm not playing for this team anymore." Myles Garrett, I'm looking at you. But money talks and BS walks. Terry McLaurin signs a 3-year deal with the Washington Commanders, which makes too much sense. He's arguably, outside of Jaden Daniels right now, their most important player on that roster.
I agree 100%. That move, again, I think the timing of that was a little odd. You don't know the conversations these players are having with the teams and when they're having them besides what's reported. But that's a guy that I do like how this contract, I'm glad they take care of him, and I'm glad how the contract is structured. So by the time this contract is up, Jaden Daniels will be up for his to be time to re-sign him, and that'll be Terry McLaurin going into his age 33, 34 season. So if they are going to have a break, that really could be the time. And if he does come back, it'll be at significantly less money at that time. But players can't play forever. I'm glad they're taking care of a bona fide number one receiver at that position. You saw the rapport that him and Jaden had last year, and I think that would have been foolish to not pay that man and not bring him back. Debo Samuels, while that is a great addition, a great weapon for them, we don't know how he's going to be health wise. He's been struggling uh, health wise for a little bit. I would say like he's been going in and out of that, struggling health wise all the time. So I think that was a great move for them. I just hope that they ramp him up just like Trey Hendrickson in a wise way. I mean, football games start next week, but you can't have Terry McLaurin, who's been sitting in, like holding in, start doing their no huddle offense next week when they start playing games because they run a lot of that no huddle. So I just hope that these teams that have had these extended like hold ins rather ramp their players up smartly and don't just throw them back out there because it takes football games to get you in football shape. Like football practice does help a ton, but football games is really what gets you in there, which is why the preseason is so valuable, in my opinion. But I'm glad that man got his bag. I don't think anybody can argue that he's a top 12 receiver. You can't argue that he's not that, right? He's been that with a bad quarterback. We saw what he looked like with a phenomenal quarterback, and I think all that's going to do is help Jaden Daniels take another leap this year and avoid that sophomore slump for sure.
Yeah, and it's in a division that I can arguably say, I don't think they got weaker. I think the Cowboys kind of remain the same, but I think the Giants are much improved. I think the Eagles. You could say the Eagles are the same, but even if you say the Eagles are the same, what are you actually saying, right? Like they were one of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, and they're wearing the ring because of it, but not just hey, they didn't just play better in the moment. Like you look at that roster from top to bottom, it's stacked on both sides. And I would argue that the Commanders still have quite a few things that they need to address, but in making sure that they have their quarterback, they have his primary number one target. You've got Bobby Wagner anchoring the defense with the veteran presence of Von Miller coming off the edge now to help mentor, some of the young guys in that locker room. This is going to be year two in the system under Dan Quinn. And Cliff Kingsbury. So you're hoping that a lot of the continuity there is going to promote growth. But again, this is a division that I don't think got worse. In a lot of areas, I think it became much, much more competitive with the Commanders being one of those teams that actually got more competitive in that division. The last holdout that we're really still waiting on, and this is a situation where even when Myles Garrett was like, hey, I don't want to play for the Browns. Even with Terry McLaurin, I don't want to play for the Commanders, right? Like I demanded a trade. It didn't feel the way that this Micah Parsons situation in Dallas feels like. This feels so fragmented and just so far apart. It seems to have crossed the line between it's where it's no longer about the contract. It's not about length of years or amount of money. It feels like Jerry Jones or other people within that front office, but I'm going to say Jerry because he's been the most vocal. They have hit a significant chord with Micah that is a line of disrespect that he's not willing to tolerate. And I think it came off the back of those comments about his back injury being used as a negotiation tactic, him not being healthy, and he's like, I'm out here laying it on the line, and you're gonna take shots at me because I'm in a contract year. Like, would you even be making those comments if you knew I wasn't in a contract year? And it almost feels like not only were you trying to play his value down, but you're trying to play his character as a man down. And I think that's the thing that makes this situation untenable. I think everybody saw the last preseason game with the Dallas Cowboys where he's like taking a nap on the training bench, right? Like he's clearly disinterested, doesn't want to be in Dallas, refused to wear a jersey. For Kubiak to think that he could just like, oh, I'm just gonna have these conversations and me and Michael patch things up. I'm like, dude, who are you? Like, who are you? And Micah Parsons is probably waiting for that to, he's probably thinking along the same like no disrespect, but coach, come on, dog, you like get away from me. And with his agent being who his agent is, right, David Mulugeta, who's arguably the best agent in the business,
$1 billion of contracts negotiated in the last 12 months, bro.
right? He fights for his players and he gets his players paid. to try to work around him. And Jerry, in his head, where he's thinking, hey, because I brought player in here and we had a conversation, and the conversation involved numbers and years, to think that he's like, oh, well, I've had the contract negotiation. No, you haven't. Micah told you very clearly, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what would make me feel good. But all of this needs to go through my agent. And for you to be mad at, as an owner or anybody in the front office, for you to be mad at a player wanting the guy that he pays to represent him in these negotiations is asinine.
Yeah, no, I think it was a very weird approach. I'm glad that NFLPA is looking into seeing if there's a grievance to be filed because again, he has an agent, and Jerry's done that several times, according to Michael Irvin, et cetera. Like where he'll try to go around the agent, and it's different. Like when T.J. Watt a couple years back when he signed that first deal, they were held up on some small details. He went over there, got pushed over the edge. That's completely different, right? But by Micah's self-reporting, like he went in there with Jerry to have a leadership conversation. Jerry starts talking numbers. And I applaud Michael for going there to have the leadership conversation. That's a huge thing, right? Like he wants to, he's a leader on that defense by action, but he wanted to lead a little bit differently and improve his leadership. And for Jerry to take that, use that as an opportunity to like quote unquote in his mind negotiate. Micah said he was trying to get, some in general 1,000-foot view in the parameters, but you need your agent there. Like there's a power dynamic there. There's a reason there's an agent, right? There's a huge power dynamic. And the reality is Jerry Jones' ego is so and has been so inflated. Like you see with Emmett Smith, going back to Emmett Smith, right? You see with Dak, you see with Dez, you see with Zeke. Like these are all people that he ended up paying at some point or another. CD, right? Now it's Micah. Like there is a history of this. Like, and this is a deal that, in my mind, you look at. This should have been done. You look at Sauce Gardner came out a year after Micah, right? He means as much to his defense as Micah means to his, and got paid already. Right? Pat Surtain came out in the same draft. He got his deal. There's players that were like no nonsense. You're going to re-sign him. They're franchise cornerstones. He's on a Hall of Fame page. So 3 players of this name are on the Hall of Fame place, and 2 of the 3 got taken care of. Right? Mm-hmm. Jerry likes to win in headlines. It feels like, and not necessarily in headlines of business. Like we have the most valuable franchise. That's cool. But like when you're going literally on 3 decades. You have this year's 30 years they haven't won a Super Bowl. And if I had to bet, I would take all the money I have to my name, sell my house, the equity in the house, and bet that they would not win a Super Bowl this year with stuff like this going on. And again, Brian Schottenheimer has been in that team, right? He was the offensive coordinator before. Him going over there to be the head coach now, he's not going to have the rapport with Micah like he's going to have with like a Dak, right? Coming over from the offense. So hopefully they get that worked out. In my mind, Micah should reset the market. He should absolutely be the highest paid defender in NFL history in my mind. He's 25, 26 years old, coming up with 12 plus sack seasons, 12 or higher sack seasons, right? Last year he was out 3 games and still, or 4 games and still had, 12 sacks. So again, that's a deal that is no brainer. And if you guys didn't sign him, he just hit the open market. He's going to be the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. So like pay the man his worth, right? Negotiate with his agent. I mean, because what he can sit out 8 weeks this year if he wanted to, hypothetically. Yes. Sit out, come back, still accrue another year, get franchise tag after this year, get franchise tag after that. That's going to be over $100 million of franchise tags, right? And then hit the open market and still get paid. He'll be 27 and still get paid, $100+ million guaranteed. So like, if that's the worst case scenario for you as the Cowboys, why not just give the man what he's asking for, negotiate with his agent, and get that deal done, and get it out of there? To me, it seems like a lot of pride.
It is a lot of pride, and to me, it just reeks of a franchise that isn't serious about winning. They've won as many playoff games in the last 3 decades as Philadelphia has won in a single season. Like
that says all needs.
It's awful, and you made a good point. Like, what you get in this. This has shades of the Khalil Mack trade without the animosity, right? Khalil Mack, even though to this day, I still don't support that trade that the Raiders made, like in terms of for the franchise. I know you being a Broncos fan, you're like, heck yeah, get Khalil Mack up out of here.
100%.
But I feel like Khalil Mack did a great job of keeping that business, right? Like it didn't go to a personal level. And he articulated that he wanted to be in Oakland at the time, and he wanted to be a Raider, for his career and things of that nature. All the same arguments that we've heard Max Crosby make, and I'm glad that the franchise seems to have learned from their mistakes, because they locked him up this year. But this has all the shades of that, with a personal line being crossed. I don't I don't see a way for him to actually rejoin the Cowboys. And it's crazy because Micah has so much respect from his peers in that locker room. Like CD's been tweeting, even Trayvon Diggs has been tweeting, like, bro, what are we doing? Just pay the man. And if you're Trayvon Diggs, you're on standby. And you see how they're talking about essentially your brother. You see how they're talking about your brother, and because he had an injury, laying it out there for the football team. So you already know what your contract talks are going to be, what your contract negotiations are. They're already telling you right now that they're suppressing your value just because you got injured.
Right.
Yeah. So again, I love to see him miserable. That's a team that if they don't win anything, I'm not losing any sleep over it. It's just a bad situation from a football perspective. And if you're a fan of that franchise, like, I don't know how after 30 years. Yeah. Either way.
The only argument is they're great at they're the most valuable team. That's cool.
Well, even that is eroding as other teams are starting to catch up with things of that nature. And here's the thing: you can only remain the most valuable team so long as you remain relevant. And we're now 3 decades removed from any real kind of success. And the generation that remembers that, you have to understand they're dying off, or they're getting into their older years. Like, you're not in the business now for the people that have been fans for the last 3 decades. You're in the business for the people that are going to become fans within the next 5 years. And what are you giving them to hope for? Right now, there's nothing too dang exciting on that roster. So
there's nobody under 40 that remembers watching the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl win.
100%. The fact that their Super Bowl win is only available on VHS ought to tell you something. Kids, if you don't know what VHS is, ask your mom and dad. Next thing I wanted to talk about, because this was another big storyline that was going on for the offseason, and it seems to be coming to an end as well, is, hey, what's happening with Matt Stafford? Is he going to play? Is he not? He's had a couple healthy practices that he's been able to string together back to back. It's one of those things that as a fan, you want to get excited. But if you're looking at it practically, what could have held him out as long as this has held him out? And how are you not worried about him taking the first hit? Because here's the thing we know about Matthew Stafford. He's going to get hit. He's absolutely going to get hit. He's one of the only quarterbacks in the NFL still that will stand in the pocket and deliver a shot. Like, he's absolutely going to get annihilated. And I don't care if he was standing behind the Eagles offensive line. It's not an issue of the quality of the offensive line. It is the type of player that Matthew Stafford is. What happens when he takes that hit? Is he going to be able to get back in the field, or are we rolling the Jimmy G for the rest of the season?
Yeah, no, I think I would imagine, as a fan of the Rams, it might be a little disconcerting how long it took them to get on the field. But this is my thought, right? You look at how they went to the NFC Championship game last year, so they had a shortened offseason because of that, right? Matt Stafford has been in the league. I mean, he got drafted the same draft, or I think as Aaron Rodgers, right? Or the year after Aaron Rodgers, something like that.
He's in his 17th year.
17th year, Aaron Rodgers in his 20th, so a couple drafts after. But, like, saying that to say, are you more concerned about week 1 or 2? Or are you more concerned about the playoffs, right? And I think I like Sean McVay's approach of, like, easing him back into it. And I don't think, because from all reporting, like, if there was a game they said last week, he would have played in the game. But, like, I agree. I would rather them start off slower this year and make sure that he can be there healthier, because he missed some offseason stuff, to make sure his back is as tall as it can be. He's going to take a hit. It's going to be tough. But we know also, like you said, he's going to take a hit. We also know he plays in pretty much everything, right? Mm-hmm. So there's only so much physical punishment your body can take. I don't think it's bad to have that approach creeping towards 40 to start. I'd rather them start off slow, get a little bit of that continuity back, right? And again, he's going to have to do less this year, right? They got Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, right? Their running back room is solid as long as Sean McVay remembers that he has a running back room. He has a running back, and he has a deep running back room. And, like, really, they're set up for Matt Stafford to do less so he can do more in the playoffs. And I think if they're leaning on that, that's a big thing. Like, how do you feel about the line you have and their ability to keep him healthy till the playoffs. Like, how do you feel about that?
Uh, Iffy at best. And here's the thing: I love the interior of our line from guard to guard. I'm set. I love Rob Havenstein on the right, but Rob is long in the tooth, man. Like he's long in the tooth, and he he always there's always a question of is he going to be able to play this week, just because of the age, right? Like his body is taking the licking, and then I would love our left tackle situation more if I felt more confident with Alaric Jackson, who's missed the entire offseason due to a blood clot issue, right? And this is something that he's dealt with before in the past. Now, McVay says that he's on track to practice this week and that there's a good chance that he could start for us week one. So I feel a little bit better about it, but not having your tackles being 100% certified, ready to go is a scary, scary thing, especially as the edge rush position in the NFL continues to evolve and get more and more aggressive. Um, but enough Rams talk. Enough Rams talk. I want to spin back up to the AFC North, to the other team that seems to be in perpetual dysfunction, the Cleveland Browns. And I want to talk a little preseason ball. You and I got on the show and we talked about Shador and his first preseason effort and how good he looked in that preseason effort. And as good as he looked in that first preseason outing, I think you could argue, if we're being honest, he looked equally as bad in this third preseason outing. Now you can argue, hey, it's because he wasn't rolling with the same quality of line and players that Dylan Gabriel was running with in there, and they had rolled in essentially their third and fourth string. You can make all of those arguments, but it just didn't seem like he was making sound decisions where he wasn't stepping up into the pocket. He got caught drifting a lot, and he caused a lot of sacks that didn't need to happen.
Yeah, no, I would say he caused a couple. I look at it this way: 4 of the 5 people that were blocking for him got cut, and they're not targeting them to come back to the practice squad. So I'll let you know what he was playing behind, in my opinion. But the thing that I would have liked to see is him in that 2 minute offense, even with that line. Snoop Huntley, the team knew Snoop Huntley wasn't going to be there today. Obviously, they cut him, right? And we talked about what they're going to do. We made accurate predictions, got rid of Kenny Pickett. They said they were going to go into the offseason with 4 quarterbacks. We knew that wasn't going to happen, so they traded Kenny Pickett. They have Joe Flacco in the running with the 2 young bulls. It looks like Dylan Gabriel will be the backup immediately and give Shador a little bit more opportunity to try to develop and try to fight for some reps. But at the same time, he wasn't playing with much. That's part of preseason, right? We can't argue that. We know that's a huge part of the preseason is playing. They're treating him like a 5th-round pick. If Shador was another quarterback drafted in the 5th round, we wouldn't be having the same conversation. It's because of his collegiate accolades. It's because of how he was doing a few things in college. His last name being Sanders. So saying all that to say, bro, I feel like it definitely makes sense why they put him in that situation. The only thing I really disagree with was the fact that they didn't let him get in that 2 minute situation. That's where you learn a lot about your quarterback. You see how they're running, if they know the offense well. He did have 5 sacks, etc. But I'm interested to see how it's going to develop. I don't believe at this point Joe Flacco is going to be the starter for the entire season. I think he might make it like half the season. Hopefully he makes half the season. Hopefully he makes the whole season. Let those young boys develop. But they kind of have to figure out what they have before next year's draft because it's so quarterback rich that I feel like they have to kind of give Dylan Gabriel and Shador a shot at some point this year. So we'll see how it turns out. Definitely shout out to Shador. I'm rooting for him. Obviously, all of us are rooting for him. So besides the haters, but I think they'll be in a good situation.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, dude, if they can be definitive on who their quarterback is, and I know you're like, oh well, it's Joe Flacco. Like you said, bro, Joe Flacco isn't taking you anywhere, and that's no disrespect to Joe Flacco. It's just it, it's reality at this point in his career, right? Now, if Joe Flacco was 25, 27, 28, something like that, I'd be like, fine, you can ride that out, right? Um, but there's no future in Joe Flacco. So you need to find out, is the future in your building right now? And this is always a hard thing for teams, right? Because the NFL is such a bottom line business. Um, you want to deliver wins, and more importantly than wins, you want to deliver a championship. So it kind of creates this weird dynamic where you need to kind of cut the cord with the vet and let the rookies go out there and do rookie things and make rookie mistakes, but you need to be able to get an honest evaluation. And like you said at the top of the show, the only way to get real football experience and get ready to play real football is you have to play real meaningful snaps. You're not going to be able to figure this stuff out in practice.
100%.
Practice for a reason. Like, those guys on your defense shouldn't be trying to take your head off if you're the quarterback of that team, if you're their teammate. It's very different than when you go into, play Baltimore or Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. There's no love lost there for you. And hey, if you guys lose a quarterback, who cares? It's better for us. Like, that's the way that mentality is. So I would love to see them. If Joe comes out and he's playing mediocre or start struggling, I would like to see them make a shift by week 3. Of course, you know me personally, I'd love to see Shador get another shake because I do think long term, I think he is a better option than Dylan Gabriel. But I can't help but feel like Shador was thrust upon the Rams because that was an ownership decision, not necessarily a coaching and GM thing. I feel like ownership called down to Andrew Berry and said, "Hey, you're going to take him." Because if not, why would you take him in the 5th when you've already taken a quarterback in the 3rd?
I don't know. So it's a good conversation. I think if apparently they had a higher grade, and I don't know if they say they had a higher grade on Dylan Gabriel, but the owner said that it was an Andrew Berry decision, and Andrew Berry was saying that the value they had for Shador, which I look at that 2 ways, the value they had at Shador in the 5th round, it was too much to pass up on him that many times. But I'm thinking if you had that high of a value on him, then why didn't you draft him and not Dylan Gabriel all year? And that could have been another position you added in the 5th round. This was a deep draft on defensive line. Offensive line has some good, solid players there. Linebacker, there's a lot on the board in the 5th round still. What if? But I think one of the biggest reasons that I think teams maybe were a little bit hesitant on Shador is because of the noise that we're hearing right now, right? And it's no fault of the Shadors, no fault of the teams, but you're a high profile player. You were a Heisman finalist, right? You broke records while you were at CU. You helped turn 2 programs around, Jackson State and CU. He's shown what he can do and really didn't have a line. The reality is this is the best line that he's going to have played with in his entire career if he has the opportunity to play. And it's not saying the Browns have a top 5 line or anything by any stretch, right, but they obviously don't have a bottom 10 line in the NFL either, right? So I think it'll be interesting to see how that development plan goes, and I trust in Kevin Stefanski. He's a 2-time coach of the year, but the flip side of that is he's coaching for his job. He can't have a year like he did last year and keep his job. So he's going to have to make decisions that are going to be more win now, even though they're not a win now team, right? The ownership is looking at it as we invested all this in Deshaun Watson, we invested all this because that's a whole other thing. Like Deshaun Watson, next year he still has 2 more years on the books, I believe, right? So are they going to stretch him, cut him, play that out for a few years? I don't know how that's going to work, but they got to figure out what they have now because they have some ammo going into the draft to be able to reload if the quarterback of the future is not on the roster now.
Yeah, and you want to capitalize on Myles Garrett's last few years. I think that's the most important thing here, right? Like, that team is arguably on the same timeline as Myles Garrett is. Like, unless they can produce something here in the next few years to rival Myles Garrett, I think that team is going to take a significant step back once Myles Garrett hangs it up. 100%. So you want to, especially the money that you're paying Myles Garrett, you want to get the most return on your value for Myles Garrett. And the way that you do that is going out and competing for a championship, not competing for a winning season or a playoff spot. You need to be competing for a championship. I do want to touch briefly on the other Sanders, Shiloh down in Tampa. I got to tell you, man, like, as big as a supporter of the Sanders kids as I've been, to say I would like to pretend like I wasn't disappointed in what I saw from Shiloh, like, it would be an untrue statement. Like, you have to understand the moment that you're in. Regardless, and I get it. I've been on a football field. I've competed, right? It doesn't matter whether you've been on a football field or not. Like, when you're competing, emotions run high, especially if you feel like somebody's either taking a cheap shot or somebody's disrespecting you. Like, the emotions run high, the adrenaline is pumping. But come on, man. Like, you don't have the protections of a first round or a second round player. You're
or a third round
or a
player.
third round player. You know what I mean? Like you're extremely, extremely late in the draft. You already know that there's a media circus around your name, not to the degree maybe of your brother, but just because your last name is what your last name is, and that's no fault of your own. You know the spotlight is on you, and they're waiting for you to do that. And I think you saw it all over Todd Bowles' face when he was walking over to the sideline. Even like Todd Bowles, like now you're gonna make me do what I didn't want to do.
And I think that's a huge thing. What you just said now is what I've been saying since I saw that game. As soon as he walked off the field, Todd Bowles' face made me feel like he wasn't going to make the roster, right? And it's not because of his play, because by all accounts, his preseason games have been great. He was tackling well, and here's the whole thing of the NFL: people are going to get the best of you, right? You're a safety coming up to help on run defense, or you're blitzing. You're going to get caught by a tackler or tight end occasionally. Like it's going to happen. Like you said, we both play football. Everybody's gotten a football field before,
Yep.
and if they said they haven't, they're lying to you, right? But saying that to say, I think you made a phenomenal point in the sense that not only does he not have the projections or like of a first or second or third round draft pick, he went undrafted. So you don't even have the things of like this is the guy we spent capital on a draft pick on. That I wanted to say that we had the seventh rounder that made the team. You're the first people they're looking at, and that could have messed up his chance to go back to the practice squad there, potentially. But I think there's a lot of safeties that are out, a lot of older safeties that are good, that are still looking for a team. But there's a lot of teams that left them out there because they wanted to see what some of these young talents can do. The safety position is one of the easiest to be good at, but it's one of the hardest to be great at. So there's a lot of good safeties. So for Shiloh to make that mistake, swinging like that, hopefully he gets the opportunity to compete, be on a practice squad. I don't know if he'll make a 53-man roster this cycle, but I think him being on a practice squad developing this year will give him a phenomenal opportunity. I do think he'll be a good special teams contributor, a good third, fourth safety, and eventually a guy that can develop into a starting safety over time. He's 24, but
Mhm.
still has a little bit of time to develop on that end. So.
Well, let's talk some preseason football, just like some overall stuff. Just give me anything that maybe stood out to you, a team or anything that you kind of wanted to talk about. I wanted to start just briefly um, with the number one overall draft pick, Cam Ward, because I don't feel like anybody's been talking enough about him. And part of me feels like that's kind of what he wants to happen. He's like hey, let us fly under the radar. Let us just continue to work and do our thing. The Tennessee Titans have looked good in the preseason. More specifically, Cam Ward has looked really, really good in the preseason. He looks like he has the poise. He looks like he's been there before. He has all the tools that you could hope for your starting quarterback to have. And I think, he might even force us to learn the names in that receiver room this year.
Yeah, no, man, I agree 100%. Like, literally the least talked about number one overall draft pick that I remember ever, realistically,
Ever.
going back. Even in a few years, where like you look at the NBA, like Anthony Bennett was a number one overall draft pick one year for the Cavs. He had more conversation that year, and everybody was surprised, like, who the hell, right? Like they were surprised then. He had more conversation in that situation, being out of the league in 5 years than Cam's had. And I think you saw Cam's ability to step up in the pocket, like get through his progressions. Xavier Restrepo, who they end up cutting, I think they're trying to bring back on practice squad, looked absolutely unguardable when they did their joint practices against number one corners, number two corners. There was on the defense he played against, I could cover him. Cam Ward was throwing the ball on target on time. So I think, I bet every year on who I believe is going to be rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. I'm putting my money on Cam Ward.
I like that.
I think they're going to be a year away from, bringing in some more weapons, some more potent weapons like Calvin Ridley. I think will be able to be cool, but you can't have Van Jefferson be a top three receiver, making drops in pivotal times, and that be the situation for success. So I think like they're going to be better than a lot of us are anticipating them being this year, but I think they're going to be a year away from getting some more real weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and their offensive line. They're going to have a tough task, and I'm not saying this because I'm a homer, as a Broncos fan, but
Mm-hmm.
for that to be your first NFL game against a defense that's going to be a top three defense, against that defensive line coming after you, right? Against a defensive coordinator like Vance Joseph, who's experienced, et cetera, calling games. But I'm saying that to say I believe Cam Ward will ball out. He might have a little bit of a rougher start, but he's a playmaker, and I think that's going to be something that he's going to do his whole entire NFL career. So
Cool. What other teams or storylines that around the preseason uh, kind of caught your eye?
yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's in the same division as the Titans, but the Colts quarterback situation, them naming Daniel Jones as the starter there over Anthony Richardson, and the big thing for me there is Anthony Richardson absolutely. The thing I don't like is we know that he needed playing time coming into the league. Like that was the
Mm-hmm.
number one thing people said. Like high ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
low floor, but he needs more reps. He only really started one real season there, etc. in Florida. So I don't like that he hasn't had the opportunity. I like that they brought in competition this year. That's something that I think they should have done at the beginning of this career. They drafted him, knew he needed to play. So if you knew he needed to play, and the coach that's is still there that drafted him, they didn't have the best development plan, in my opinion, for him. I do understand he's had some injuries, and a lot of and probably half those injuries have been a result of not going through his progressions the way he needs to, getting the ball on time, etc. So I completely understand that. But I think they feel Daniel Jones is the best bet to get them where they can go right now. But we know where that leads. Daniel Jones is not going to be, a 5,000-yard passer, 40 touchdown throw in, low interception, high touchdown kind of guy. You don't know what Anthony Richardson is going to be. So they're going with the known rather than the unknown. But I would have rather them give him the opportunity to win that starting job, which they did, and he lost it. And played him like he's still young. Right? Like think about it this way: he's younger than Bo Nix still, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the league for longer, and he's younger than Bo Nix, right? So saying that to say, man, we'll see how that works out. I could see him being on another roster. There's teams that I think would take a flyer on him, absolutely. But um, I think that's going to be an interesting team because they have a great line. They have a great running back. They have good weapons. Their defense, they have Lou Anaromo coming over from Cincinnati to be their defensive coordinator. They're going to be markedly improved on that side of the ball. So if Daniel Jones can not lose them games, they'll be in position to compete for a playoff spot, in my opinion. But I would have liked to see Anthony Richardson as their starter.
I mean, me too, but I got to be honest with you, bro. I think Anthony Richardson shot himself in the foot. I like he committed what I'm gonna say is a cardinal sin in sports, especially when you're in the role, in a pivotal role, right? Like you're playing point guard, you're playing quarterback. Like
What is C on your chest, by the way?
yeah, you got to see on your chest. You cannot take yourself out of the game because you're tired. You can't do that. It's different if your shoulders hanging off the bone, right? Ankles busted up, something like that, and maybe coach just didn't see, and you're trying to play through it, and you're like, I can't go. That's different. But to say that you're tired and you're gassed, like brother, everybody's tired. Everybody's gassed. You're the leader. You can't do that. That's a cardinal sin. And do I think that means that he shouldn't be allowed to have another opportunity? No, that's not what I'm saying. But I say all that to say, if I'm going to war with you, I want to know that you have my back and that you're not gonna quit on me when it gets tough. And I think he's kind of given himself that label. Whether I can't even say it was unintentional. Like it's intentional. You intentionally took yourself out the game for whatever reason.
I think that speaks on, like, you hit a great point, brother. But I feel like not even, but I feel like that's more of a culture thing, right? The Colts culture has been talked about the last few years. Different leadership not necessarily be there on certain parts of the ball offensively. They haven't had, they have Quentin Nelson, et cetera, but he was dealing with some injuries, so they had the real leader of their team was out for a while. He's back now, et cetera. But like I think that would have been an opportunity where an older quarterback, right? If they would have had that in the building, a good mentor for him can say, "Hey, man, I understand what you're saying, but like this is how you should approach yourself as a leader of the team." And then Anthony Richardson learned from that. We saw he came back in shape. He definitely got better in this offseason. He had a few error throws, a few missed plays, but like they didn't see enough of a progression for him to want to go with him. But at the same time, you bring up a very fair point. Like he did check himself out of that game. Coaches have long memories, teammates have long memories, but I think You heard teammates and actually the coach, and they're talking about how they feel he's learned from that. So hopefully they do. Hopefully he gets an opportunity like Bryce Young to come back and compete. Andy Dalton was a starter for the Panthers until he wasn't anymore, and Bryce Young at the end of last year started looking like what we expected Bryce Young to be. So I'm hoping that Anthony Richardson takes that same path.
Somewhere else I want to spin it to. I want to go up to Green Bay, bro. I got to tell you, I've liked what I've seen from Green Bay in this preseason. More specifically, I've really loved what I've seen from Matthew Golden. I was like, oh, imagine what happens when you spend the first round on a receiver,
100%.
on an actual great receiving talent. Like, it makes me happy to see him perform that way, and it pisses me off at the same time because I feel in my heart of hearts that he doesn't belong in Green Bay. He needs to be in some place much warmer, somewhere on the West Coast, somewhere in the Inglewood,
I was gonna say,
SoFi-ish area.
you mean like Denver, like go
No, no,
west
no, 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 no,
Denver,
no. So, some place with much more oxygen.
okay.
Um, I hate to see the brother up north freezing himself up, but no, man, he looks good, and that team, even Malik Willis, I think he's much improved. But probably the most impressive thing that I saw outside of Matthew Golden, bro, the way these boys were running the football in preseason, they have a running back room full of bruisers. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think there's any speed demons back there, but it's a bunch of guys you don't want to tackle, especially in Lambeau in December, in January. That is not a bunch of people that you want to hit.
Yeah, I agree a ton, man. Like, um, I feel like they go, with how the Viking season went last year. The look at the Bears with their new coaching staff, Ben Johnson coming in, the Lions, etc. Like they haven't been talked about maybe like they have been in the past. So I agree, but I think you said something that is profound maybe for them is like this is what happens when you spend a first round pick on a real number one receiver. And me and you's conversation, that was my wide receiver one in this draft. I thought Matthew Golden was the best receiver in this draft, and for him to be able to go to Green Bay with that offensive mind, the offense that they have there, that Mike Shanahan type offense is absolutely insane. I think he's going to absolutely dominate this year. I would have liked to see him in Denver myself, but I'm happy with Jade Barron, who's been balling for us as well. So I get it. But I think if Jordan Love can be healthy this year, if they can come in and run the ball like we've seen them do in the preseason, we know their defense flies around and hits. Like it's going to be a difficult team to play. And like you said, man, Jordan Love doesn't have to win them a whole bunch of games. He's going to have to win them some moments. He's just going to have to make sure he's making plays and not losing them a bunch of games, turning the ball over. And I think if they can do that, Matthew Golden's going to have an opportunity to potentially run at a Pro Bowl in the NFC this year.
Yeah, I want to stay in the NFC North as well. Let's talk about the Bears, man. Everybody's going to point to the Buffalo Bills game, and I will just direct you to last season because there was a very similar game that happened to Buffalo, and then Buffalo went on to do Buffalo things during the regular season. Buffalo is a very different team when Josh Allen is under center. Okay, like they're a very, very different team when Josh Allen's under center. I can't undersell that. What have you seen from Caleb, man? Like I've seen some stuff that looks encouraging, but I'm trying to also keep it in perspective that this is the preseason. A lot of these guys are running very vanilla defenses. They're not wanting to give away too much. I look at that the NFC North, and after looking through this preseason and trying to keep everything contextualized, I still can't see the Bears being number one in that division. I think Caleb will become the Bears' first 4,000 passing yard quarterback this year. But I still think there's a world where they miss the playoffs. Like they finish above 500 but miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I think realistically at this point, looking at it, like that's the most likely scenario, unless the Vikings regress a little bit with JJ McCarthy. But I feel like the Lions are going to be the Lions. Now they lost a lot of players, they lost both their coaches, and they lost a good amount of staff. But Dan Campbell's been preparing for that team, right? The Green Bay Packers are the Green Bay Packers. People are assuming the Vikings are going to be the Vikings. They have a very talented roster, so I understand that. You got Justin Jefferson, arguably the best receiver, in my opinion, the second best receiver behind Jamar Chase. But like you have a top two receiver in the NFL. You got T.J. Hawkinson, et cetera. So they have a lot of weapons there as well. The Bears had an uphill battle to not be last place in their division anyway. That's going to be as competitive as any division, NFC West, AFC West, and the NFC North. I think are going to be the three most competitive divisions in football this year. and I would probably put the AFC West and the NFC North above the NFC West. I think the NFC West, the top of that division, but you don't really have four teams in that division that are going to be like the AFC West and the NFC North. I could absolutely see any team. I could see three of those teams making the playoffs. I could also see, two teams making the playoffs, but the Bears and maybe the Vikings or maybe the Packers, something happens and them not making it. But I have liked what I've seen from Caleb Williams, this progression. I like Ben Johnson's approach of throwing a lot at him in the beginning, see what he can handle, tailor in the offense. So I'm really interested to see week one what they look like, actually what their offense looks like, what they're going to be focused on running the ball. DeAndre Swift looked really good in the preseason as well, and I think that's going to be helpful. Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, like the weapons they have on that offense. Cole Kmet, grabbing love from Michigan. They have weapons on offense. They have a phenomenal play caller, so their line is going to be much improved. They had one of the worst offensive lines of football last year. If they're even towards average this year, they're going to be in a much better situation. So I think they're going to be good. A quick topic relating to Caleb Williams. I really think this year we're going to see some good jumps from these second-year quarterbacks. We always see a sophomore slump, but you got Caleb Williams with a new offensive coordinator, some new weapons, a new line. I think that's going to benefit him. Jaden Daniels has he has a lot of continuity. They had great weapons last year. They have most of all those great weapons back, and then they added like Debo Samuels, right? You got JJ McCarthy coming off of his knee injury that he had, that torn ACL. He had the whole season to learn to learn that offense. You've heard nothing but great things from Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, etc. Addison talking about his timing. He is what they drafted. He is what they thought he was. Bo Nix, you've heard like big leadership growth there. Who do you anticipate this year taking maybe the biggest leap out of those sophomore quarterbacks? Michael Penix, don't want to leave him out because he was absolutely throwing rockets in their preseason as well, and then he made Kyle Pitts look like what we thought Kyle Pitts was when he came out, right?
So, yeah, still don't take him in fantasy though.
Yeah, I would take him. I'm gonna take him late in fantasy anyway.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take him as my number one tight end, but he'll be my number two. But out of those quarterbacks, who do you see having maybe the biggest jump, and who do you think is gonna maybe struggle the most this year out of that group?
I think Bo Nix is gonna make the biggest jump, hands down. I say that with absolute confidence. I think Bo Nix is gonna make I saw what he put on display last year and really had the Broncos contending for, serious postseason play. And it looked rough at first, but I think he not only did he earn Sean Payton's trust, but I think he earned the trust of the rest of his team, of the rest of that locker room. And it really showed how many snaps he got in college, because there was a level of comfort there that I don't think you saw from a lot of the rookie quarterbacks other than Jaden Daniels in a significantly more competitive division. Like they played, having to go play the Chiefs twice is an issue. Having to go play a Jim Harbaugh-led Chargers is a problem. Even the Raiders, you can say whatever you want to say about the Raiders, bro. Like having to play Max Crosby, is a thing. And plus, that's a very fierce rivalry. Like they hate each other. So there's always an extra element to those matchups. But I think, okay, Sean Payton really liked Bo Nix coming out. First year was about learning the system, learning to be a professional quarterback. I think this year is where you start to see Payton open up the playbook. And I think Bo has the mental capacity to handle all of that. So I think it's going to get opened up. You've got a lot of different pieces there. Sean Payton has had an entire, he had an entire offseason to draft, to trade, to do all of this stuff. I think all of the things that he started, all the projects that he started, he's kind of, I would say probably 75% through his roster construction, making this into a true Sean Payton team. And I imagine they'll probably still be pretty agile all the way up to the deadline. But man, I really like what Bo Nix can bring to the table this year. And that's not me dismissing any of the other guys in the second year. But I think the person that struggles the most in the second year is absolutely going to be JJ McCarthy. For one, he didn't really see the field last year outside of some preseason stuff, and that was short lived. And again, preseason is preseason. The regular season is a completely different beast. And as many good flowery words that his teammates and his coach had said about him, the thing that disturbs me the most is all the reports about last year, how he was handling the success of Sam Darnold, is that like mentally it did something to him. Like it did not sit well with him, because he felt like it should be him out there. And it wasn't necessarily that he had an issue with Sam. It was, dang, like this should be me.
Right.
And he's had a hard time like mentally recovering and getting that confidence back that he can be that guy. And in some ways was kind of intimidated by Sam Darnold's success, because it's like, oh, this is what they expect from me. It's one thing to say, hey, you get drafted, especially in the first round, I'm a first round quarterback. I want to bring a championship to the thing. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to play. It's another thing to sit on the bench and witness what it takes to play a very high level caliber of competitive, like championship caliber football, have that modeled for you. And then that guy is completely out the door. And the only reason why that guy is completely out the door is because you're not because of how they felt about him, but because your front office and your coach specifically made a determination that it would be in your best developmental interest for that guy to be out of the building.
Yeah.
And then you bring in Carson Wentz, who, hey, feel however you want to feel about Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is a great locker room guy at this point for younger quarterbacks, can teach them how to be, professional. And I know he'll be hyping up JJ every step of the way. But man, if McCarthy doesn't watch himself, I can't remember the kid's name out of Minnesota, from the Golden Gophers that they have on their roster, but that boy looks like he could sling the football too. So I think there's going to be competition. Obviously, if you're Kevin Stefanski, you're rolling with JJ to start the season unless there's significant health setbacks, because when you invest that much draft capital in somebody, you're kind of forced to play them. You have to play them, especially when you don't really have anything else on your roster. But I think he could really, really struggle this year, just not having an entire season of NFL snaps, coming off the injury, which, as you know, is as much as a mental thing as it is a physical thing, right? Coming off that knee injury, being able to trust that, hey, when you do your drop backs, when you plant, when you roll out of the pocket and stuff like that, that your body isn't going to betray you and buckle. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And like I said, fighting those demons that he was fighting in the off season and during the season, the pressure to perform to a certain standard. So we'll see if he can handle all of that. Kevin Stefanski runs a completely different offense than Jim Harbaugh. It is not going to be running back dependent. Yes, the run will be mixed in there, but JJ is going to have to go out there and win the games with his arm, and that is something that he was not really asked to do in college. So I want to see what he looks like this season. Don't have a whole lot of confidence going into it this year for him.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point about Kevin O'Connell's offense compared to Jim Harbaugh's offense. Jim Harbaugh, is going to have a big line, run the ball, etc. But my thing is, from reporting and how they feel about him, he didn't do things at Michigan not because he couldn't do them, but because Jim Harbaugh's offense didn't ask him to. And they feel like he has the mental capacity, the arm strength, the athleticism to run that offense. And I think about this. The fact that you just said what you said, I look at it a little bit differently. The challenge that he was having, he's competitive, right? He's competitive, and he knows he would have been the starter last year. But I also look at KOC. KOC got a quarterback who was looked at as a failure really to that point, Sam Darnold, a huge bag in Seattle because of how his offensive structure was, right? The quarterback that we're talking about, late round draft pick out of Minnesota, the Golden Gophers look great in the preseason. That lets me know that coach has a handle on what the offense is supposed to look like. So for him to have confidence that McCarthy gives him the best shot to run it, I think is a phenomenal thing. He has the keys to the ignition in that offense. I think he'll do great. I'm going to shift it a little bit, as I know we're wrapping up. This will be like the last thing, but I'm not going to say Bo Nix because you did, and I don't want to be a homer anyway.
Before you do yours, though, I hear your argument for JJ, and I raise you San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. Same system, high-level draft pick versus Mr. Irrelevant. One of them could mentally grasp the offense and handle it. The other one couldn't.
I trust I trust J.J. McCarthy and KOC more than I trust Trey Lance with Kyle Shanahan. Last thing, because I know we got a minute left to wrap this up, but I would say besides Bo Nix, the person I would look forward to making a big leap this year would be Michael Penix. Wasn't maybe as acclaimed as maybe those other quarterbacks. I think when he came in, their team, the momentum, his athleticism, it looks like he's launching rockets from a shoulder right every time he throws the ball. So I think them with those weapons, with Bijan Robinson, et cetera, they should have a great year. The quarterback aside from JJ, that I think, because I would agree with that, but if I had to name one more, I would say Caleb. Is he going to be able to handle this new offense? Is he going to be able to handle all the stuff that Ben Johnson's asking him to do? I think he will be able to, but I could also see him struggling for the first part of that season and coming on strong a little bit later on, especially with the schedule they have this year. So I'm very excited. I'm very interested. I know we got one more episode before the season actually starts to come out with, but definitely excited that we got to do a good catch up, and next week's preview before the season is going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, can't wait for that. Closing thoughts, man. Quick shout out. I don't want to give this more attention than it's already getting on social media, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. Hey, quick shout out to Travis Kelce for securing the bag.
Great retirement plan.
Yeah, the best retirement plan in the history of mankind. Listen, if for some reason this is the first time that you're hearing this and you're finding this out, God bless you. I want to live where you live. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift got engaged today. So Swifties rejoice. Kansas City prepared a week because your boys got one more year.
And that's what I was excited about. I saw that news today and I was thinking, he's almost out of here. Taylor, thank you. Right. So
one more.
Shout out to them as well.
Shout out to them. Also, best of luck is shout out to Spencer Rattler, that has been named the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Your head coach has more faith in you than probably the rest of the United States when it comes to playing the quarterback position.
I don't think he does. I think he has confidence that he can help him get the number 1 overall draft pick. So
you're going to need it. So anyway, we appreciate all of you guys for tuning in to another episode of In the Pocket. In the Pocket podcast drops allegedly every Monday right here on YouTube. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter or X, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm going to call it Twitter because his mama named it Twitter, so he's always going to be Twitter. I am at AC to GDB. My brother Mike is at MWills21. We appreciate you guys. Go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the alert button so that way you can be notified anytime new episodes drop. We cover all 32 teams. Looking forward to getting to another episode next week where we do this season preview and then just following along for this ride. You guys are going to have to forgive me ahead of time because I feel like my fandom is going to override my logic very, very soon. So for me, for Mike, again, appreciate y'all for tuning in the Pocket. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.